This week, a former Vanderbilt nurse was convicted of negligent homicide for giving a patient the wrong medication, which subsequently led to the patient's death. This in 2017. She allegedly gave an elderly patient paralyzing medication instead of sedation for a routine MRI scan. The nurse, Rhonda Vaught, is now facing up to 6 years in prison.
This comes as the nursing industry is facing a crisis of unprecedented proportions, partially due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But it's also due to an uptick in violence towards healthcare professionals. Author of Goose News on Substack, Meryl Guzner, writes, officials at healthcare institutions, which face a severe nurse shortage due to the escalating number of early retirements, fear the headline-grabbing case will only make it more difficult to find credentialed nurses willing to fill their open slots. Yeah. So this is an interesting story. I don't know what you think about it. I share the concern that, we just have to, who cares about the implications? We have to discuss the actual case.
Right.
Mistakenly giving someone the wrong medication is terribly sad. This woman, should not work as a nurse anymore because of this. If it was, truly a mistake and she wasn't, drinking or something, I would not be super inclined to send her to prison for that. What is your thinking?
Yeah, I mean, so mistakes happen.
Yeah.
People make mistakes, at home and at work. Sometimes a mistake can lead to a tragic result. And sometimes a mistake, and most of the mistakes we commit don't lead to a tragic result. Mm-hmm. If she had accidentally grabbed ibuprofen, now, the poor woman who had requested the sedation medication would have then had, an anxious experience while going through the MRI because she didn't get the sedation. Instead, she got the ibuprofen, but she wouldn't have died. But the nurse would have committed the same act. You know what I mean? Like she just happened to grab a medication.
Right. There was no malice. There was no, she hadn't made some other more, I brought up the drinking because, if you get drunk and then get behind the wheel of a car and you kill someone, I think there's greater, you bear more moral responsibility than if you're just in a car crash and it's just, you didn't see the light or something.
Just make a mistake.
Yeah.
And we also have you can sue for malpractice.
Yeah.
Like that, we have ways of resolving this. Doctors make mistakes a lot. If every time a doctor made a mistake, the prosecutor came in, how many doctors do you think we would have? And
even the malpractice stuff, I think, goes way too far. It's a giveaway to trial attorneys, a population I don't like very much.
And it drives a lot of bad decisions.
It drives up the cost of medical care because doctors have to have malpractice insurance, and there are fewer doctors. We don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough nurses. So this gets into the broader implications of this. Right. This kinds of thing discourages people from getting into these fields. Like we can't make the perfect can't be the enemy of the good. Right? You don't want mistakes like this, but like people will suffer and die if there aren't enough doctors and nurses.
Right. And the woman has made multiple, tearful appearances, apologizing, saying that this is something that she's going to live with.
Yeah.
For the rest of her life. I don't understand what society gains by throwing her in a cage for 6 years. They already took away her nursing license, which
sure.
But what is gained by that? At the same time, if she were a police officer who had qualified immunity, then it would basically be impossible unless there was some, like you said, some intentional act behind what they had done. A police officer who kills someone in the line of duty is usually going to get off, even if they pulled the trigger.
Yep.
Like and even if it was a mistake, there are so many different protections for people in their position.
Yep.
That don't apply to her, and then
they'll be back on the job. They won't even lose their job.
Right. They're 2 weeks, a little investigation or something.
Right.
And then finally, and according to the reporting, we know about this because she registered it as a mistake that she made. We want all of the mistakes that are made in the course of practicing medicine to be recorded, analyzed, and then corrected for.
Right.
And apparently, there had been some serious problems with the way that medication was stored at this hospital. The hospital claims that they cleared up all of those problems like a week before this happened. So they say that you can't blame us for this. However, the way that they would, let's say that's true. We're not sure if it is. But let's say that's true. The way that they figured out that they were having problems with the way they were storing medicine is basically from nurses flagging it for people, saying, hey, this mistake was made here. You need to do this. Let's fix it this way. No nurse at this point has any incentive to be honest about a mistake that was made at this point, because if they are, they're just then incriminating themselves and throwing themselves in prison.
Right.
And so you've made everybody less safe, and you've exacerbated the nursing shortage, all to imprison somebody who already feels
right. And what is the goal of prison?
horrible.
What, to punish someone? It's just I don't think prison should be. I don't think the main purpose is punitive. The purpose should be to keep us safe. We have to lock up people who are an active threat to society, who we think might stab someone or shoot someone or rape someone if they were out on the street. And then it's a lot of people, and they got to be put away. Absolutely. But someone in this case, there's no likelihood she harms anyone. She's not going to be a nurse anymore, and she shouldn't be a nurse anymore. But why lock her up too? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah. Who's she going to hurt?
Right. Yeah.
As just a person who's
our prisons
now
are crowded
struggling.
enough. We incarcerate so many people. It's so costly. Don't people want to pay less for stuff? Don't they want more money in their own pockets? We have to, we're like on several levels raising costs of things because we lock too many people up. We sue too many people in all these various fields. That adds up. We all pay for that. A couple people get really rich from it, the trial lawyers and the prison industrial complex. And the rest of us are poorer because of it.
Yeah, and nurses are leaving the profession in droves.
Yeah.
The pandemic was just brutal on them, and it becomes this vicious cycle. You show up for work, you're understaffed, and you normally have, let's say, 70% capacity. Now you're at 100% capacity, so now you're extra understaffed. So it makes your work that much more miserable. So then you quit, and so the people who remain are then that much more understaffed. And then you see, somebody made a mistake on a shift and is now going to prison. Yeah, that goes into your calculus. You were already thinking, like, do I really want to be in this anymore? Plus, we're an angry society, and if you talk to nurses, they have not been treated well throughout the course of the pandemic either. At the very beginning, they were treated as heroes and given the adulation that they deserved. That wore off really quickly, and it started becoming a shoot the messenger type of thing. Like a lot of people who were angry about all of the different pandemic politics would take it out on nurses. And so many nurses are like, you know what? I don't get paid enough for this.
Yeah. People have frustrating experience. Nobody wants to be in the hospital. It's a
right.
frustrating place to be. You take out your frustration on the staff. Some places have better staff. Some people have worse staff. I'm sure some people, just like people in any sector, are doing the bare minimum, or they're more unfriendly with patients than other people. It's different experiences everywhere. But it's going to get worse if it's more expensive, harder to become a nurse. I tend to think whatever the med school process, the educational process, the credentialing process for nurses and doctors, I tend to think it should be easier, probably. Probably there's too much credential going into it.
It's tough.
I know it's obviously you need competent people who understand medicine, or you'd have more mistakes like this.
Right.
But although even if you
have
a handful more mistakes and a bunch more nurses and doctors, you're going to save lives
will be
anyway.
Safer. Right.
That's what people don't understand.
Right.
Like a handful more mistakes, as crazy as that sounds, would be worth it if we had many more people getting care that they need urgently, because people aren't so spooked about going into this profession because it isn't as daunting.
Right, because not getting care is something that, if there's no nurse who can get to you in time to change the medicine, change the bag, whatever, and that sends you plummeting, that you can't necessarily sue over that.
Well, and people are choosing, they're delaying to visit the doctor for, I was supposed to get a checkup this year, right, about that thing. Yeah, I'll go next year. It's probably a headache at the hospital right now. And people will die because of that,
Yeah.
because they didn't get the treatment, they didn't have the checkup, because they know what a miserable situation it is there right now.
Yeah.
So
Get your checkups.
get them.
Yeah. We'll have more Rising right after this.